Hello, my name is Virgil. This is Literally Books, and today I want to talk about Enki Bilal's Nikopol Trilogy. Better. This was reprinted and collected in this like gigantic hardcover. I mean, that's a big book. It's like an art book size. It's not even like a hardcover graphic novel size. It's like an art book size. The pages are really nice, kind of like almost magazine-like pages. The only critique I might have is that the binding doesn't really seem like it's stitched. I mean, I guess it could be. It seems like it's glued. See, like it makes these little poppy sounds when I touch the binding. It makes me think it's glued. Probably no big deal. I don't think it's really, I doubt I'm going to wear this book out, but just know, I mean, you know, that's a thing. The art really gets what it deserves here, and that's the reason you're going to probably want this, is because the way this cover looks is kind of the way the whole book looks. Almost all the art in here is this level of quality, or very similar to it. And really enjoyable to look at. It's kind of like a vibrant but muted. I don't know. I guess I don't have the language to express it, but I just really love like the way this like it's got these sort of like sepia thing kind of going on back here, and a lot of white, also a lot of white space, and then like just these sort of like very stark colors, very bright colors, but they're still like their saturation is turned down. Was that right? Oh man, you shouldn't ask me anything about color. So that's the reason. The art is the reason that you're probably interested in this book. Okay, so the setup for this story is Paris, March of 2023. It's after 2 nuclear wars have happened, and Paris is like run in a fascist state at this point. It's expressly said that it's fascist. So that's the setup, right? That's the setting. But there's a couple other things going on. Nikopol, the titular character, is in cryogenic like prison in like a satellite in space, right? In this pod. I think he was sentenced to, I don't remember how long his sentence was. I want to say like 60 years or something like that. And his pod like breaks away and falls to Earth. And in the process of it breaking away and falling, one of his legs, you see, he's like so frozen solid that he's like snaps one of his legs off or something, which is kind of a bummer for him. Now that's the first unusual thing, right? So this character, like, you know, falls to Earth, his pod breaks open and his leg snaps off. He's frozen solid like an ice cube. Also floating above Paris is a Egyptian pyramid. Inside of the pyramid are all of the ancient Egyptian gods, Horus and let me think. Well, Basque and Bass, whatever you say it, the cat lady. God damn it. And Anubis. I think those are the big players. There's the other ones. I don't know. I can't think offhand of all their names. The scarab-headed god, the other ones, crocodile. And cool. It's cool. It looked good in the book. So here we are. We have Anubis and Basque and Mr. Crocs. Incidentally, Mr. Crocs is where we derive the name for the shoes, Crocs. They're floating above Paris, and they're not going to leave until the mayor of Paris gives them gas, like fuel, gasoline, to fly their pyramid away. All right. Horus is missing, and they don't really know where he's at. We cut away and see Horus sees Nikopol and determines that his body is a good body to possess because he's not like corrupted with like mutations or something like most of the people in Paris. Takes him to this underground like subway area, cuts a piece of subway track off, and fashions Nikopol a new leg from a piece of steel track. And says, hey, why don't we come to an agreement? You know, I'm going to do this, and we kind of share your body, and then I want to try and do some things, and you can work with me. Nikopol doesn't really have much choice, and so he agrees. And so they work together to make Nikopol the mayor of Paris. It's a very strangely paced story, and it just seems like some of that stuff just seems so random. I don't think that it is random, but it really feels like it's random. If you just look at it surface level, it does seem like we just picked random things here and threw them in a story. Like you had like a bunch of stuff written on paper and you threw it in a hat and you're like, ooh, this one, yeah, Egyptian gods. Ooh, what do they need? Yep, they need fossil fuels. Okay, sure. It's symbolism is what it is. There's a lot of symbolism going on there. You can read as much or as little into it as you want, but I wouldn't critique it too hard for seeming so strange. That strangeness that you're getting is really just symbolism that we're using to sort of like suggest certain themes and ideas. The story has a sort of sense of like, I don't know, like maybe like you get the surface story, like you're up here and you're like this stuff that makes sense. Like, oh, he's going to try and be mayor because Horus wants to do something. And it's like the story sort of stops and goes underground. It like continues with like strange imagery and like weird surrealistic symbolism. And then it comes back up and the story continues. And so it sometimes feels like weird jumps in the story, maybe, or like it just doesn't, it just seems like it's random. But I think whenever that seems to happen, it's really just that you're supposed to sort of like kind of work out like, well, what's really going on here? I think an easy one would be like, for example, Horus taking Nikopol's leg that's missing and fashioning a new one from a subway track. That subway thing, it just to me seems like a very like working class type symbolism. I'm not going to try and dive into that too deep, but just to say that that sort of thing is all symbolic. What's strange about this is that I sort of knew this story, but I'd never actually sat down and read these. There was a movie that Enki Bilal actually, I think he directed it and produced. I don't know if he produced it. I'll put the date up. Anyways, I saw that movie, and I laugh to myself, and then I just keep going. No, actually, the reason I laugh is that the version of the movie I saw was on VHS, and it was like a preview copy that a movie studio would like send out to somebody for like an early review, but they wouldn't want you to like take that and like sell it, like to copy it and sell it on VHS. So there was like every 20 minutes or so, the footage would go black and white and it would say like review copy or something like that massively on the screen. My brother-in-law had come across a copy of this at some point. Somebody give him a copy of them, or like a copy they had, or I don't really know the story. It was nothing illegal, I assure you. He had that copy and I said, here, you want to watch this movie? I said, sure. And I watched it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So while I was editing this, I went and looked, thinking I just still had that movie maybe, and I do. This is it. See at the bottom it says not for sale or rental, and the DVD itself, I think it says for screening purposes only, and the rating is pending. So this is Immortal the movie. Proceed with caution. I liked it. Be careful. That's where I know the story from. Now, you might think, I'll go watch that movie. Hold up. It's not a bad movie. I don't think that the direction is bad, but it's like, it was a time, there's a lot of CGI in the movie with live action, and it was a time when only the best CGI looked okay. And this was not a super high budget movie, so it did not have access to the best CGI, and it really shows. It is very awkward. Uncanny Valley is like, doesn't even begin to sort of express how it looked. If you've ever seen like the animated Beowulf movie, it's like that, but worse. It doesn't exactly follow the story. It kind of like mishmashes a bunch of stuff and sort of blends it all together and mutates it and everything. You can go see that if you want, but I mean, you shouldn't take the fact that I enjoyed it as being a reason that you'll enjoy it too, unless you trust me. I don't want to hear about it. So the highlights for this book are the just for really the artwork. The artwork is just gorgeous. I did try and take some photos of it. I'm going to get them up on the screen. Coloring really makes it come alive. It really is just the shading and the coloring just really kind of, you know, bring the whole thing up, make it very pleasing to the eye, very enjoyable to look at this book, very enjoyable to read it, especially if you get like some of those scenes where you get like a little more detail in the streets or something, and you've got like little bits of here and there, and there's just lots of little things. A very dystopian, sort of lived-in feeling to everything that's drawn. You know, it just sort of has that, like, there's no hard edges. Everything is kind of like rounded off and like filed down. It just sort of feels that way. And so that's a really pleasant, interesting experience, especially with that coupled with this sort of exotic and surrealistic imagery that we get. The other real great thing is these Egyptian gods, and we see them, you know, doing very human things and acting in very human ways. Just bizarre choices that people are making in the weird fashions that they get, and all that stuff just kind of blends to make a really great, strange experience. And then for me, another highlight is really the story that tells something that's a little unusual and just doesn't bother to explain it. It doesn't, and that might seem like it could be a detraction. I don't think it is. Right? You get all this detail in one little place, and then it just sort of like fades out and it's just empty space, and you're sort of like made to draw conclusions about what's going on and why it's going on. And so it like presents the situation, but it doesn't really explain why this is happening. Sometimes people have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I like that in a story. I like where I sort of get to be part of the process, where I kind of, you know, my decisions of what I think about something kind of matter, and it's not expressly explained. I think he really leaves it open to you to sort of interpret the story and or events the way that you want to, and sort of try and surmise what's going on. So for the low lights, so the one thing, I guess this is more like just sort of a content warning. There's a lot of nudity in here, which is why I can't just really hold the book up, even though it's pretty big pages. It's just that there's a decent amount of nudity in here, male and female. It's mostly tasteful. It's not really trying to be sexy. It's so much as it's just sort of, it's all very natural. The nudity in here is usually very natural. There's no graphicness, basically, to the nudity. So that's more of a content warning, just so you know. You could probably make a case that there's some sexist perspectives in here. A lot of the women, it seems like the men only know how to interact with them, or only know how to respond to them as an object of desire. I don't really think it's very strong, but I feel like I saw that some people thought it might have been. So I thought, well, I'll bring it up. So the touchstones, the things that I really remember when I think about this, that scene where Nikopol's leg is replaced by Horus, with where he sort of like uses this like laser vision that he has and like burns like melts this this subway track down and forms a new steel leg for him that he has actually for the whole rest. That happens early in the first story, and it's like throughout the whole rest of the story he's got this metal leg. He's like, at one point he's like, I gotta go inside, my leg's getting hot. So I like that scene. That scene was really good. It's actually a really memorable scene, even from the movie. In the second story, there's some Jill, where she sort of like has these encounters with men and she repels them and kills some of them, or she thinks she kills some of them, and it gets a little strange, and she has their blood in her hands, and so she's trying to wash it off, and it's sort of this a very starkly like stark white skinned with this blue hair and blue lips and this like this red blood in her hands. There's some really striking imagery. So, you know, her trying to clean her hands off, almost kind of like Lady Macbeth. Is that the symbolism I'm looking for? Out damn spot? Is it? Yeah, not out damn spot. Out. It's out damn spot. Not out is the candle. Sorry, distracted. But yeah, that imagery was very memorable. So I like that. And then in the third story, there's a part where Nikopol's I guess his brain is starting to kind of get messed up from having all this time with sharing his head with Horus, and he starts to like swap letters in his words, and so you start reading it and it becomes more and more difficult. At first you kind of can parse what's going on, and you're like, I don't know what he's saying, and it's like, oh, Nikopol's swapping these letters, and so then you have to like read his language and say, okay, that's J is an L, and the B is the and so it just looks like kind of nonsense, and then you read it and you're like, oh, it does an interesting thing where it makes you slow down a little bit. Not that Nikopol is saying anything particularly profound necessarily, but it makes you slow down and like sort of like spend a little more time on those panels. And I thought that was an interesting way to do it that I didn't really find very annoying, because it's not as though there was a lot of that. There was just a little. So the analogs for this, I would guess that I'd probably say another, you know, Euro comic artist like Mobius. His stuff, if you like that, then there's a good chance that you would like some of this. Like the Enki, for example, if you've read that, then this Nikopol trilogy might be of interest to you. I think it has a little bit different tone. The Enki feels a little more comic-ish, and this feels a little more graphic novel-like. So like it's aiming a little higher in its audience, for a little older audience. The other thing that I would say that it's similar to, I mean, I guess, you know, if you like The Fifth Element, if you don't really know what Euro comics are, The Fifth Element is a really good example of what a Euro comic is like, or a Valerian. But I think Fifth Element is a little bit, it's kind of close. Actually, Fifth Element kind of borrows a lot from many different Euro comic examples. This sort of crazy wild ride, right? You get some of that in here too, just sort of like very strange things. It's a train that's just full of animals, you know, just completely full of animals, regular animals. Nikopol goes to the bar. Actually, no, Nico, not Nikopol, Nikopol's son, who is the same age as Nikopol, because he was born when Nikopol got frozen, and so they look almost identical. So there's some weird stuff going on there, where they're like swapping back and forth, and people think one is the other a lot. and like sometimes one pays for the crimes of the other, or like it gets like, you know, takes over for this person. This person, it's weird. I don't really. There's some weird stuff going on there. I don't know what to think about that exactly. Yeah, there's a point where Nico's at a train and it's just full of animals, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the bar, and he goes there and like he gets like a couple black eyes, drinking at the bar with these animals. It was, I don't know, it was strange, but that's part of the experience, just sort of a very strange experience. Like The Fifth Element, for example, has some aspects of that, and that's kind of the stuff you can expect out of this book. So if I'm going to rate it, I would say for me this is an 8. But a +1 for sort of like the level of the art and the attention to detail. Really, really are great. And this sort of bizarre, like very memorable experience. I don't feel that the book is very strongly sexist, but I did see some attention around that. I guess I would say you could take a point away for that, or something. You could have that in there. I've certainly seen some egregious examples of sexism. I really don't feel that this is it. Just a really enjoyable, strange read. Definitely a read that I came away from not being like, wow, that was so cool, but more like, that was just a really strange way to end it. I don't know. It's like if you watch a really good movie and it has like a very like fitting end, but it isn't like a happy ending, and you kind of left going, I liked that experience, but it's hard for me to say that I love that experience. I like the book a lot. I like it a lot. I'm like just shy of loving it. I love certain aspects of it, just shy of loving it. You know, it's like I kind of wanted to say it was a 9 for me, but I'm like, I can't quite let myself do that. And I'm like, it just kind of missed it for me. Really great. I'm glad that I picked this up. I'm certainly glad to have read it. Certainly it was a really memorable and really interesting experience. Probably one of the big names in Euro comics. Like if you look up like what are the great like European comics that I should read, like this one is probably going to be in that short list, you know, so it's on my short list. And I guess I should make one more little like tidbit is there's this the thing in the last book they called chess boxing, which is where it's such a strange thing where two guys will box, and then after they box for I guess 10 rounds or whatever, or if somebody doesn't get knocked out, then they play chess, and then I don't know how the scoring works. Well, they actually did start doing chess boxing at some point. I don't really. I think it was in the 90s they started to. It became an actual sport. It just seems so strange, and it was directly from this. You know, it was directly drawn from this book, from this graphic novel. Such a strange idea. I mean, in here it's part of the weird surrealistic thing, but like in real life, like why would you? Why would you do that? Who are these people? Who was a champion chess boxer? You know what? I should do research. I'd look into that. I don't know anything about it. It just sounds crazy. It just sounds crazy. I don't know what, you know, what do your chess boxers look like? You know, my God. You know, you really don't want to take a hit to the head. You think you'd really be, you know, you'd be hoping for those body shots, because then at least you could still be take the body shots so that way you've got a clear head when you sit down to play a game of chess. I don't know. Anyways. Well, thanks. Enki Bilal's The Nikopol Trilogy, great thing. I really recommend picking up. I'll have a link down below if you want to get it from. It'll be Amazon if you want to get from there. That's where I got mine. I think it's really a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Maybe not for everybody. I really liked it. Thanks very much for watching. I appreciate your time. I'm Virgil. I don't know why I say my name again. You've probably not skipped to this. And this is literally books. I'm just going to keep going. This is part of the script. Appreciate your time. I really do. Come back and see us sometime. You can do like things. There's I think it's this corner over here. I'm gonna not look at the screen. Look at down here. You can subscribe. That is cool if you do it. Appreciate it. Gonna make another video after this. So if you see another video and I'm wearing the same t-shirt, I'm not changing it. I only have limited time to make these things. So I try to make them back to back. Sometimes that I get a good energy going, and sometimes I can watch the second video and I'm like, whew, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm gonna get out of here before I lose the edge that I've created for myself. Bye. There's a blanket, right, that we have in our bedroom, and I call it blue, and my wife insists, oh no, I call it green, and she says it's blue. And there's another thing that we have that I say is blue, and she says it's green. She's probably right. I mean, other people have told me, no, that's this color. I'm like, no, that's not.